A lot of NBA to discuss, a lot of NBA that's been happening in the last 24 hours or so since free agency opened. And, of course, the Phoenix Suns had themselves a busy week last week with the Durant trade and everything that happened at the draft. And joining us right now here on the Burns and Gambo show to talk about all of it, we welcome him back to the program. You can see him if you're watching at ArizonaSports.com, host of the Kevin O'Connor Show. There's our guy, Kevin O'Connor from Yahoo Sports. How you doing, Kev? Good to see you, man.
I'm doing excellent today, guys. Always an honor to join you guys. And Gambo came on my show the day of the KD trade. Appreciate you joining me again on that time, Gambo. Was on top of everything, man. On top of all of it through this whole process.
Thanks, Kev. Thanks. We had talked when the trade was made, and it was tough to evaluate it because you had 5 second-round picks, you had the 10th pick overall. We didn't know who it was going to turn into. Now that you've seen what they've done with the 10th pick and getting the Duke center Malawach, and you add in Brooks and you add in Green, how do you feel about the trade the Suns made, getting rid of a soon-to-be 37-year-old Kevin Durant for what they got?
I feel awesome about it. I mean, look, this is going to be a younger team. You're not going in with finals expectations if you're the Phoenix Suns at this point, but you feel good about the roster specifically if you're Devin Booker. If you look around the locker room right now, you're like, okay, I got some dogs by my side. I got Dillon Brooks on my team. I got some bigs. Mark Williams, maybe we can tap more out of him in Phoenix. Come on, Malawach, with everything that he brings as a rookie out of Duke, as a lob threat, as a guy who can maybe be a floor spacer and a lockdown defender in the paint. You feel good about that. You feel good about your role players. Rasheer Fleming, getting him as well. So I think Jalen Green is really the big X factor here in all of this, because over 4 years in Houston, we saw flashes. Like, there were stretches where Jalen Green went on a tear, averaging 25, 30 points per game over month-long periods. But then, as we see in the postseason, there's stretches where he has 2 for 10 games, 1 for 6 games, 4 points, frustrating, you're face-palming, you're hating him as a Rockets fan and as a Suns fan. We'll see. I mean, like, is he gonna, in a new situation, be like a lot of guys and be the same? Or maybe in this new situation, Jalen Green becomes a steal of a return for Kevin Durant. So I think over time, Gambo, like, when you and I talked on that day, initially I was like, how do you not get your future picks back? How do you not get those back? But I think as things have settled and in time, as you've seen their draft picks and you think more about it, it's like, okay, Jalen Green, after 4 years, entering his 5th season, he is the upside guy, and we'll see how he develops for the Suns, especially if they make room for him getting rid of Beal.
Yeah, let me get your thoughts on Kevin Durant, too, because, he hasn't impacted winning here the way, we would expect him to. They couldn't get Castle. They couldn't get the number 2 pick. They couldn't get Jabari Smith. They couldn't get Ware. They couldn't get Zubac. They couldn't get Jovic. They couldn't get those guys. What do you think that says about Kevin Durant and what his value was?
I mean, it wasn't great. He's, in his late 30s, and he's got only 1 year left on his contract, and him and his agent, Rich Kleiman, were trying to push their way to their preferred destinations, and there were certain teams that I'm sure would have been willing to take a risk, and there were certain teams that preferred not to, and clearly Minnesota was one of those teams that wasn't going to go all the way in, among other teams that weren't going to go all the way in for a disgruntled Kevin Durant, on top of the fact he's always moody and always unhappy. So I think for KD, the Houston situation, though, is pretty ideal.
Yeah.
For KD there with the Rockets. And so I think for him, it's an outstanding opportunity with that team, especially with the changes that they've made. But Phoenix, it's just unfortunate, like, things have happened the way that they have, but I think ultimately Ishbia and that remade front office did a really nice job this offseason overall.
Kevin O'Connor is our guest here on the Burns and Gambo show. Specifically, the fit with Devin Booker and Jalen Green. How do you think that will work? What does that look like to you when you kind of close your eyes and envision it?
I mean, look, I think Booker, we've seen him toggle between being this off-ball guy who can hit threes off of screens and curl around and attack off the basket. We've seen him be point book. We saw that pre-Chris Paul. We saw that a little bit post-Chris Paul as well. So I think Booker, at this point, he's going to be 29 years old next season. He's a seasoned veteran. You know what you're going to get from Devin Booker. I think it means more point book. I would imagine, for the Phoenix Suns this season and moving forward. And Jalen Green is just more of an off-ball guy. Green is that guy coming off of screens, coming off of handoffs, being a floor spacer, attacking closeouts, also a lob threat in the half court as well with his elite athleticism. So I think Booker is going to be that primary creator for the engine of the offense, and then Jalen Green is going to be that kind of athletic flank next to Book, offering like different style, different speed next to him. So in theory, I like the combination, but so much of it comes down to Jalen Green's consistency, because he's one of those weird guys where like he has elite touch from the free throw line. He's an 80% guy from the line going way back to high school, but he's never been a consistent three-point shooter off the catch or off the dribble. So I've always wondered, is it something mechanical in his hands that just hasn't been corrected? Or is it something mental with him? Is it something with like how he's transferring power from his lower body into the release of his shot? It could be any of those things or all of the above of those things. But if he can develop into a consistent three-point shooter and translate that elite touch from the line and near the basket into three-point range, that's when you're cooking. That's when you have a dominant backcourt. And so we'll see if he can ever do that, though.
Obviously, the Damian Lillard news caught everybody today. I saw your tweet about it, and it was shocking to see it. All I could think about was Bradley Beal and the Phoenix Suns and wondering about the cards that he holds and the power that he has in his situation, whether it's the no-trade clause or his willingness to take less money when it comes to a buyout because it needs to happen. What do you think is the most likely outcome for Bradley Beal's tenure with the Phoenix Suns, Kev?
I mean, it feels like a trade is highly improbable at this point. Teams are, running out of money in free agency, and it's just not a lot of destinations that you can imagine getting to that number for him in a trade. So I would imagine that a buyout would be most likely involving Bradley Beal and him perhaps giving something back. But at the same time, like you mentioned, Damian Lillard didn't give anything back. He's going to get all of that money. And so if you're Bradley Beal and his representation, I'm sure you could make the argument, well, Damian Lillard just had that when he's Damian Lillard and he's out for a season. With Bradley Beal, why would we have to give anything back? So I'm sure those negotiations will happen, but ultimately, if you're Bradley Beal and you really want to go to a situation where you're wanted in a team, because you could sign anywhere, maybe giving something back is advantageous for you. And so I think that's the most likely outcome for him.
Yeah, sure, because he could get 2 years mid-level with somebody else, I would think. He's still going to, even if he only plays 45, 50 games a year, you're going to get 20 points out of the guy. He can still score the basketball. He should go somewhere where he's happy. The Suns have to move on. They have to. Addition by subtraction. They've got to get rid of that guy. So
big time. They have to, for Jalen Green's sake, and like also for the young guys. Like Rasheer Fleming is a guy who's going to be getting three-point shots. Kobe Brea, their second-round pick, is going to be a weapon. So it's like you want those younger players, not to mention Jalen Green, getting those opportunities in those minutes, not a guy who, A, you don't want to be there, and B, doesn't even want to be there. He's not part of your future. So like they have to get rid of him regardless of what it has to be, whether it's waiving him or buying him out, stretching the contract, like whatever the way you got to do it, you got to get rid of Bradley Beal. Have to.
I want to sneak one in here on this one because I'm curious the level of urgency for the Suns to get this Bradley Beal business wrapped up as soon as possible, given the unlocking that it would create for the rest of the roster with the second apron. What level of urgency needs to exist to come to a resolution with Bradley Beal soon so they can get on with the rest of the business when it comes to the roster by getting out of that second apron?
I think there's urgency for both sides, really. I think for the Suns, there's urgency, and if I'm Bradley Beal's representation, I want him to be let go as soon as possible as well, because eventually those mid-level exceptions, $14.1 million, are going to get dried up. Teams are going to offer those elsewhere, and the preferred destinations aren't going to be there for you anymore. And so I think for Bradley Beal's side of things, there may be even more urgency than there is on the side of the Phoenix Suns, considering those situations could dry up, and suddenly you're like, okay, well, what are we looking at here? We're not looking at $14 million. We're looking at vet minimum or the room mid-level exception, and that's a hell of a lot less money for Bradley Beal.
I was blown away by what the Suns did in the second round. To go from the end of the second round with two useless picks that were going to be guys on two-way contracts to get to the number one spot to get Fleming. You usually don't see 3 trades before the draft even started to go get their guy. Fleming was the guy that they wanted. They had a top 20 grade on him, and they tried to move up at the end of the first round, didn't do it. Got him in the second round with all of those maneuvering. I read what you said about you loved the Suns draft.
Love it.
Malawach, Fleming, Brea. What did you love about their draft?
I mean, with Malawach in the first round, you get just an upside two-way big. He's an elite lob guy. He got great touch. He could become a shooter, and he's an excellent rim protector who's rapidly improved. He's raw, had 0 rebounds in his last game at Duke, so there's ways for him to improve, but major upside. Rasheer Fleming with the 31st pick out of St. Joe's. With him, you're getting typical 3-and-D style guy. He hasn't faced a high level of competition at St. Joe's, struggled in some tougher opponents, especially towards the latter end of the season, but knockdown shooter, can do the simple stuff on offense, plays hard on defense, has just great size as well. So to get him at 31, and it was kind of a bidding war for that 31st pick, it seems like, was a win. And then you get Kobe Brea after that, one of the best shooters in this entire draft class. And with Brea, he's going to come in right away from day one. I think in Summer League, Suns fans are going to see right away, like, whoa, this dude is lights out. Like, he has a skill that is going to allow him a lot of chances over the years of the NBA. I had him, I think, ranked in the late 30s or early 40s. And with him, he can do more than just shoot as well. The only question with him is defense and how much he'll be a reliable defender. But offensively, he can shoot off a movement and he can shoot off the dribble. And so I think with him, he's not just some specialist stand still in the corner. He's a guy you can use in creative actions, and he can hit a 1 or 2 dribble pull up or sidestep off the dribble as well. So I think like all 3 of those picks, the Suns, I mean, look, maybe Brian Gregory and Matt Ishbia, those guys know exactly what they're doing, because I thought they nailed it on draft night. All 3 of those picks I love for the team, and I love for the fit around Devin Booker as well, because they're upside guys and great fits with Book.
Kevin, we appreciate the conversation. Thanks for carving out a few minutes of your day for us. Really enjoy your work, and we thank you for your time, man.
Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure to come on with you. Have a great day.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
Kevin O'Connor, Yahoo Sports, the Kevin O'Connor Show, joining us here on the Burns and Gambo Show, and we are very appreciative of him coming on for a few minutes.
Thanks for watching Burns and Gambo. Click to see more from the guys and hit the button in the middle to subscribe so you never miss a video from Arizona sports.